Well, I'll come down to the Met Office at Ronaldsway Airport, talking with Adrian Cowin, the senior Met man here. We're getting these warnings today of some really, really bad weather, particularly strong winds. Is that unusual or not?
It's fairly unusual. We would see a deep low of this sort of intensity maybe about twice each winter. So it's significant. It will be noticeably stormy as the severe gales increase to storm force this evening. And that means that we can see gusts in excess of 70 miles an hour, and anything above 70 miles an hour is potentially a damaging situation. And this evening we're thinking of peak values as the evening goes on, off the range up to about 80 miles an hour.
That's structurally going to cause problems for things?
Well, I think that's right. You know, it is damaging gusts. It can cause structural problems to some buildings and puts trees at risk as well. And the hazard there, if the odd branches or trees come down, you run the risk of blocking some roads. You also run the risk of damaging some overhead power cables, so there may be localised power cuts to contend with. And those sort of gusts as well can cause general disruption to travel, and generally we'd advise people to stay indoors really rather than go out and about because of those adverse hazardous conditions. And I think there's very likely the conditions strong enough to cause disruption to air travel and the boats as well.
Got some shots here which I took on the way into you today, and even then you can't kind of gather it from the pictures maybe because the wind was really strong and pelting strong, but the high tides are the biggest problem with it. I suppose it is going to break over, as you say, but we haven't got a very high tide as such.
Fortunately, we haven't got a high tide. We're not near the springs at the moment, but of course these sort of stormy winds do generate big waves. We're looking at waves of 5 metres or so around the island's coasts, and that's still big enough to cause some coastal splashover as they hit the seaward walls on the promenades, and those big waves will splash up and over a bit. Not to the extent that we see when we have the high spring tides and all the storm surges going on, but again it's an added hazard to the evening that's towards the high tide, 10:30 later on this evening, big waves breaking up against the promenades.
Got some fine maps in front of you.
Yes.
Do you want to take us through what we can see there?
Well, absolutely, yes. It's the sequence of maps that we have that model what's going on, and it shows the deep low and the circulation around the deep low of the gales reaching storm force, and the wraparound, the bright colours is also the wraparound of areas of rain, and the brighter colours indicate the heavy rain. The frames I'm particularly watching is watching into the evening frames as the low pressure moves from Ireland to Scotland. We get the strongest gales across initially Wales, but coming northwards to give us a westerly severe gale reaching storm force this evening right across the Irish Sea, the Isle of Man and into northwest England. So this is the stormy area.
And we're seeing headlines, or I've heard headlines about force 12 in places tonight. Not the Isle of Man?
Not the Isle of Man. As far as I can tell, the risk of reaching force 12 is the west side of Wales into North Wales and then maybe into parts of northern England.
It's not far away though,
It's not far away, but it's the detail that can make all the difference. We hope our estimates and calculations of the track of this indicate that we'll get storm force 10 and perhaps in the middle part of the evening touching violent storm 11.
Wow, I mean that is I don't often hear you say words like that though, violent.
Yes.
And is it because it's going to be gusty rather than a constant wind? Because that can make a big difference as well, can't it?
Yes, it can, the gustiness. The gust values will certainly rise to the damaging values, but you are looking at sustained mean speeds of 50 or 60 miles an hour, and the gust values broadly in the range 70 to 80 miles an hour.
Okay, you've been a Met man for as long as I know. All those years at Max Radio, we talk to each other every day. Is this an unusual occurrence in your experience now, or is this just one of those things that happens every few years?
It's one of those things that happens every few years. Yes, you tend to see values like this at least once every 2 years. The more exceptional values would be if we reached 90 miles an hour or more, and you'd normally expect that about once every 10 years. But yeah, you do see that.
Well, the boats are not going today. You think there may be some disruption later today with planes by Sanet, certainly.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say, all the things you were saying there, keep indoors if you don't have to go out and so on, really, is it?
That's right, really. Bear in mind these conditions are hazardous. It is best to alter your plans and stay indoors, keeping safe, really. Avoid the difficult conditions that will be out and about this evening. In many respects, the heavy bursts of rain wouldn't help either, but the main hazard is the storm force winds. I'm glad to say that in the outlook, the storm force winds abate overnight, so by the time we get through to Thursday morning, conditions are getting better.
But you're going to tell me there's more coming, right? I mean, it seems to be one after another, doesn't it?
I'm afraid this is the case. The Atlantic is brewing up these deep, intense, fast-moving lows at the moment, and there are more to come, right into the British Isles. Yet again, there's another hit of gales and heavy rain later on Friday into Saturday.